Like the pace that things are moving right now is absolutely staggering. And then, I've been covering a lot of the silver companies for, say 20, 25 years, and it's never been a good investment. They'll bump, like Core and Hecla, they'll bump from 500 mil profits in a quarter or gross profit back down to zero, 250, zero, 500, zero. Well, now, with the higher price of silver, they're making like $3 billion, $4 billion. Like, the spike in the value creation is absolutely enormous. And it's going to be really interesting to see what these miners are going to do with all their profits going forward. Like, we're in a new era.
Well, and you had written recently on X that Kerr and Hecla need to get that activist investor treatment. So I wonder, can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, what's his name? John Paulson and Marcelo Kim, they came into the Denver Gold Group, I think in 2016, 2017, they did an activist. They're like, you guys need to create value, you guys need to do this. But it wasn't, they weren't holding the miners' feet to the fire. They were calling them out for the lack of value creation. But like an activist investor, the activist investor, they see the company worth, this much. And then they see the company trading for only this much. And they go, listen, if you sell off this, and if you do this, and if you increase the dividend, and you, buy back shares, you will increase the value. So like some of the New York guys that are, ruthless, like Carl Icahn and, some of them, they'll come in, they see the value on the table. They'll come in, they'll shake up management. They'll get them doing, shareholder creative things, and, they'll push the share price higher. So everyone will make money. And I just see the value on the table right now that is not being unlocked because they're still running the companies the same way they were 20 years ago, and we're in a new place right now.
Well, are there any companies, silver or gold, that you think are adapting to the current environment and they're doing a really good job for their shareholders?
Yeah, Lundin Group,
yeah, as you said.
NGX, they spun off Jose Maria, and then they spun off a couple other projects, and they spin it out right to shareholders. Lundin Gold just sold a silver stream to Lunar Royalties, and it's 500,000 silver ounces per year, and Lunar Royalties paid 50 million shares for it, and Lundin Gold is spinning that right out to shareholders. And a lot of companies, they won't do that. They'll hold it on their balance sheet. They'll manage the position. They'll choose to sell it, and management end up making more money, and the bankers get rich. But you need to find the groups where the management is focused on, shareholders first. And, these free stock dividends are straight value right to shareholders. So I stick with groups like that.
And I want to ask, in terms of the stocks, how you're approaching taking profits at the moment. Because at the end of January, when we had gold and silver prices really running, there was a lot of talk. I was at VRIC in Vancouver, a lot of talk about are people taking profits. So what have you been doing?
I was there. I'm like mentally I was there because, the silver price, I do a daily regression versus gold. It's like a gold-silver ratio, but it's a regression back to 1970. And silver reached a level when it was at $120 that it was like 70% overvalued versus its predicted price versus gold. And the last times that happened were in 1980 and 2011, both major blow-off tops for silver, and silver was uninvestable for the next, 10 years, 20 years. And, the top happened, and the overvaluation happened, and then, it's sold off here, but it's hanging in there. And like the demand is there, like fundamentally we're in a different place, and silver's at $90 an ounce, and it's hanging on there, and it looks like it's going to stay there. And just the profits that are being generated at $90 an ounce silver are staggering. Yeah. And there's a lot of little silver companies that were not really profitable when silver was at 30 and 40, and lower grade stuff, but now they're just gushing cash. And there's some projects that have been around for a while, like Cordero by Levon Mining. It's been around for 30 years. It's like really low grade, and it's never really worked. And now Discovery Silver owns it. And now it looks like it's going to work. You know what I mean? Because the economics are pushed so much higher by the higher price of silver. And then Corani. That's been around for 30 years, never really worked. It looks like it might work at these prices. So it's a real mind shift. It's a new era in mining right here.
Well, and on the note of the silver stocks, you're mentioning before we turn the camera on, we probably want to talk about what's going on in Mexico. There's a lot of turmoil there right now, and I think investors might not know. Should they be in Mexico right now? Any thoughts?
Well, unfortunately, like if you like silver, you have to have exposure to Mexico because Mexico has produced 90% of the world's silver over, history. All the world's silver, it's produced from Mexico. Mexico hasn't been, the safest place to do business. Vizsla's got the best Panuco project like in the world. The grade is like 600 grams a ton. There's nothing like it. It reminds me of, Mag Silver's Juanicipio. It reminds me of Silvercrest Las Chispas. And this is the best project in the world. And, 10 of their employees got kidnapped and they found them dead. Like, it's awful. It's absolutely tragic. And then the Mexican government and with U.S. forces went in and launched an all-out attack on the cartel. Like, you cannot let the cartel win. There's too much money on the table. And I really think that, you need to take advantage of the dip in prices because, Jalisco State and the other states in Mexico, in the future, they could be one of the most safest places to mine due to this crackdown on cartel activity. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's too much money there. Yeah. Like, this is the time. Take advantage of it.
What we see here is this is a very clear resistance zone, right? Essentially, you have this area right here where you had these little tops, you had a minor pullback, then a move up, consolidation, and then you had that big move to the upside that ultimately put in a topping tail and a doji that alerted me back then to call the top for a major correction. And sure enough, we did see that big correction. Now, the question is, from this point, is it getting ready to make that next bull move up? Or is it just building an inside bar consolidation pattern for further downside? Now, first, let's build that structure that I was talking about. Essentially, what we do is we draw in our little zone here. This is our resistance zone. This is the level that I've said ever since we dipped, bounced, and we hit it, and it went right into that level. See how right here, folks, you can see that little high going into this area? That tells you it hit resistance and it was rejected. And what that tells me as a technician is that if we get back up there, that's going to be the wall, right? That's going to be what we need to break to make a run at the all-time highs. As long as we stay under that, then what happens is you have this general bigger pattern, which is generally, again, sideways consolidation. And those type of patterns, if you looked at 100 of them, about 75% of them would lead to further downside. Now, if we can break above this level, then it starts to get more interesting because we could test the high and the bearish consolidation on the chart would then be no longer fully intact. Now, building the structure on the downside, let's do that now. What we can clearly see is there was this grind higher in the chart, slow and steady on silver. We then got a bigger pop, a bigger reversal, smaller pop, smaller reversal. Essentially, we got a pause here, right? Before the final meteoric surge in silver. And what we can do here is we can say, okay, well, what this tells us is that there's major technical support right down here, right? So again, this gives us our lower band of support. So we have our resistance level up here, 91 to 92. Our lower support at $70 to $71 per ounce. So essentially what we've just built and we've just revealed is that the price of silver after this big reversal is now stuck between this level and this level here and even over here and these highs right here. You see how that works and how the chart is now starting to make sense? And essentially that's what it is. And I always want to remind you of this is that when we do chart analysis, we're really trying to figure out what the puzzle is telling us. The puzzle is there and it will give us the answer. The question is, can we look at the chart and decipher it appropriately? And that's what I've spent years and years, in fact, decades on learning how to do and what I try to teach in these videos, albeit as well as I can. Okay, so if we go back to the chart, what we can see recently on silver is we did rally up. We got right here. And then look, today we're starting to pull back. Now, just because we're pulling back doesn't mean we can't, let's say, do something like this, right? And make another breakout attempt. That's always a possibility. But in technical analysis and probability-based trading, we never want to jump the gun. It's human nature to say, oh, I'm long silver, so I'm I'm going to believe it's going to break that. I'm going to look for confirming factors on social media. Like I'm going to look for, oh, this person's saying there's a major shortage of silver. So therefore, that reconfirms my notion because I'm long silver that it's going to break out, or vice versa. Oh, well, the economy is weakening. So therefore, this lower range of support should break because it's partially an industrial metal, right? So there's always ways that we as humans psychologically will look to confirm what we want to happen. We have to be very aware of that. That gets us into trouble, frankly. All right. And this is stuff I'll reveal in my psychology course that I'm working on right now, really trying to make it an amazing course that will help a lot of people. Because if you're like me, I struggled with psychology so much for the first 5-10 years of trading. All right. Then I started to get a handle on it, but it's still something that I battle today. I think we all do. We're human. We have emotion. Right? We want things that we want to work out. We want things that we, depending on if it's up or down. All right. In any case, let's go back to the chart here and take a look. So right now, what we do know is that this is resistance and this is support. Now, again, the other thing we do know is that as long as we stay in here, this is a sideways consolidation pattern. And if that continues, it favors a downside move. Now, it could fail. Right? This we could break out, in which case, okay, now we can go back to these all-time highs. But as long as we stay in here, the risk is slightly favoring eventually, even if we chop more and more, eventually a break to the downside. Where would it go? Well, you guys know me. I've said this nonstop. Listen, if there's one thing you can say about me, whether you like me or not, is that I am not shy about telling you what I think is going to happen because it's based on probability, right? And so my downside target, you have this pivot high, but more importantly, if we go to the bigger time frame here, we bring this all the way back and look at what it coordinates with. We bring it back even to the 1980 high pivot, low right there, right there. This would basically be my major buy level on silver. Right now, listen, it's not to say I won't swing trade it. In fact, I went long when we came down here with members, right? We got a nice little trade on here, but I certainly exited when it popped back up here. It was just like, okay, we're done. The oversold condition into support. We bounced into resistance, done. I didn't play it again down here. It's just starting to chop overall. But if it breaks here, yes, I will be a buyer down here. If it breaks here, I'm not sure if I'll chase it or not and jump in. But at least if you're a bull, that would give you the optimism and the probability that it could trade back to these highs.